I'm sharing my screen.
Okay, sounds good. Go ahead, Anit.
Is it visible?
Yes, I see Manitis. How do you pronounce that?
Yeah, it's mantis.
Montes. Okay, go ahead.
All right, so I'd begin by saying good evening to everybody present here. And I think we've gathered here to present our visions of a green city. And I think we all have different opinions and unique ones indeed. So sharing our views, we all will definitely broaden our horizons. On this note, I'd like to present my own vision. So, all right, let's begin. Now, I feel that every action of ours has a purpose, and I feel my purpose was to design something that is actually astonishing. And also, I feel that we as millennials, we are the ones to decide the fate of the Earth. And since Earth is our plan A, we must be working towards this, aiming that I aim to make a place which has the perfect equilibrium between the quality of life, development, and most importantly, nature. So the topics covered are the following. So let's move on to air. Now, I feel that humans have achieved the unachievable and invent the unthinkable, yet we have some things that we as humans cannot make. And one of them is, I'd say, air. While people nowadays are suffering from acute respiratory diseases, and air is often referred to as the invisible killer, which is evident from the adjoining diagram, that 29% of the deaths are from lung cancer due to the air pollution. And also in the whole of my article, I've emphasized the need to have less number of cars on the road. This is an effective yet a very simple way of controlling pollution. And an interesting fact that I'd like to share is that some people argue that old cars produce more CO2. However, statistics show that in its first year itself, the car was responsible for 18.25 tons of CO2, while this is equal to 3.5 years of using an old car at 13 miles per gallon. Also, this taking EU as an example, this shows how transportation produces a lot of pollution, mainly cars. So my main aim is to reduce the number of cars. Now, industries. I think when I say that manufacturing is the backbone of the economy, everyone would agree to it. Because if we see in today's scenario, when we have a lockdown, a worldwide lockdown, and people cannot go to work, and the manufacturing business wasn't being able to flourish as much. So it was leading to a lot of economic issues. And while at the same time, I also believe that industries account for as much as 50% of the total air pollution. It is evident from this pie chart here that 52% of the total air pollution is caused by industries. So it is very important to regulate the waste management and the waste produced by industries. For this, we must also be well acquainted with the type of waste. For example, the different methods we can use is processing, distillation, adsorption, ozonation, vitrification, incineration. But we will be able to use these only if we're aware about what substances we're using. All right, now talking about water, I'd just like to ask you one question. Can you compromise on the quality of water you drink? Most certainly, your answer will be no. So in Monetes, I have tried to develop a system wherein we have enough water to supply to homes while at the same time we also use water judiciously. It is often viewed that treated water is unfit for consumption. However, this is not true. And grey water is a very good source in order to supply water to homes and industries. It is gently used water from bathroom sinks, shower tubs, and washing machines. Then it is also very important to use water judiciously, and for this we can build a permaculture. It is an agricultural practice, a green-blue infrastructure, and also permeable pavements. I'd like to show a diagram here. This is for a typical rainwater harvesting system. Now, these are permeable pavements. What happens is when we have a rainfall, the rain falls and this pavement seeps down and then goes back into the soil. This is a typical green structure example with multifunctional farming, beehives, biodiversity-rich business parks, etc. Now, we as humans produce tons of waste every day. Some of it we even don't realize. So it is again extremely pivotal to manage our waste. Now, there are two parts of this process. One is collecting waste from homes and industries, and the other being how to dispose this waste. Now, we can use separate bins, black, green, red, and blue for different kinds of waste. And we will also have a paper collection center, dead battery collection, and e-waste centers. Now, there are different kinds of waste. So the waste disposal of these has to be catered to. Now, different methods are composting, vermicomposting, landfill, incineration, biological processing. Now, it is often a question, which method should we be using? So this is an example of landfill, recycle, and compost. It is visible that we can use gloves, sponges, rags, etc. in landfill, water bottles, oil jugs in recycling, and bones and trim, shellfish in composting. This is a vermicomposting, composting in landfill example. Then again, these are different color garbage cans. Next, I'd ask you, what is a peculiar feature of the 21st century? It is that we don't have time. We always have a dearth of time. Now, for this, a well-structured network of transportation is crucial. Now, different means of transportation can be trams, S-Bahn, U-Bahn, buses, cycles, e-scooters. E-scooters in some countries such as the UK aren't permitted to be driven in public places. However, in other countries such as Germany, France, and Italy, it is a well appreciated practice. And I think e-scooters are an extremely important means of transport, and we must use it. Now, talking about energy, we have unending technology in every possible facility, but all this revolves around energy. And the usage of fossil fuels has various disadvantages, so we must come up with other sources, such as microhydel power plants, and it is often unknown that solar energy also has various types: solar power station, embeddable solar plants, floating solar panels. Energy from sewers is a new source, and also an interesting energy from movement of people, and also energy from movement of vehicles. Now, this is a typical example of a hydel energy power plant. And these are floating solar panels. These have a very efficient mechanism of working, and they produce pretty high yields of energy. And this is a normal solar plant. Now, this is the mechanism of energy from energy movement of people as well as movement of vehicles. Now, the input is the kinetic energy from our movement, and the output is the electrical energy. And biomass is definitely a good alternative. It can be composed of garbage, wood, landfill gas, alcohol fuels, crops, etc. Now, Maimonides said, and I quote, "Give a man a fish and feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and feed him for a lifetime." Now, this quote rightly emphasized the immense power of education. A city must therefore have a well-planned education system. Children are the future, and we must nourish them. Therefore, for preschool, socio-emotional development, cognitive development, fine motor, gross motor, and linguistic development is extremely essential. Then for primary students, an additional language is always a benefit. Therefore, an additional language will be introduced at an early stage in a child's life so that he or she is able to learn it till the time he passes out school. For middle schoolers, they will be introduced to science, which will give them an insight in the mechanism of the world. For high schoolers, they will be allowed to choose what they want to study, as well as advanced placement program, where children who perform better and wish to study advanced topics would be given access to. Lastly, they would also have industry insight programs allowing them to explore various fields. Now, wherever we live, wherever we work, we have a certain set of rules by which we should abide by. Now, governance is an extremely essential part of a city. Now, the governance of Manites has three bodies: legislature, judiciary, executive, and the primary form will be a democracy. And voting rights, all above 16 would be allowed to vote. My opinion is that at an age of 16, if the children are given part in the system, or they are given a say in the system, they feel as important as the adults and tend to contribute towards the society. Now, health. What we desire is the ability to work hard, to do good deeds, be responsible citizens of the world, but a prerequisite is health. Now, some important features can be: all above 55 years will have a free body checkup every year. Senior citizens will have a life insurance. All children will be vaccinated. 24-hour emergency ambulances and free access to facilities for those who cannot afford it. Now, we as individuals often think that we alone cannot bring about a change in our society, but here I would want to bring about a change in this attitude. We alone can undertake small steps which make a big difference. For instance, intriguingly, driving at 50 mph uses 25% less fuel than 70 mph. Then cancel your expensive gym membership and walk to work instead. Bring a mug to the office instead of using polystyrene cups, etc. You could also clean the back of your fridge. Dusty coils can increase energy consumption by 30%. Well enough to be able to make a difference, I think. Now, I also feel that there are some things fundamental to the existence of humans. They are access to clean drinking water, nutritious diet, security, clean surroundings, access to education, employment, and most importantly, awareness. Because, for instance, if a city has a law for the benefit of citizens, but they are not aware about it, the law is of no use. Lastly, I would like to cover the aspect of finance. A green city has various aspects, some of which are also really pricey. Naturally, providing so many facilities to the citizens, along with a well-planned infrastructure, does cost. So Monetis has a well-developed tax system wherein tax will be deducted from the salary of the citizens according to their incomes, or even according to their age. Some age groups or some groups of people will also be exempted from paying taxes accordingly. Lastly, we have a circular structure wherein half of the area will be given to the residential part, 1/4 of the area will be given to the industrial part, and the last 1/4 will be given to government offices. Also, in the circumference, a water body will be located, along which agriculture will be undertaken, making the city self-sufficient. And the residential area will be divided into 6 parts separated by green belts, making it a green city and a pleasant sight for the citizens. I'd end my stance here. And I hope you enjoyed it. I'm open for questions.
Very good. That was excellent presentation. I really enjoyed the quality of your voice. Your narration is quite clear, and I like the way you pose questions to the audience. I think Chirag said he had a question.
Yeah, the chat wasn't accessible. I'll just go through.
He wants to know what the name of the city means.
Oh, yeah, sure. Manites is the Albanian of astonishing. As I mentioned, I'd love to create a city with an equilibrium of development and natural aspects. So that's why I wanted it to have a name, astonishing.
Wants to know what portion of the city would be under green cover.
Right. So as I mentioned, the residential area would be divided into 6 parts. And the 6 parts would be divided with a forest green belt. Also, the expressways would have a green belt because usually around the expressways we have high tension wires. So if we plant trees, if we create a forest, a green belt there, it will solve dual purposes.
Very good. Drew points out that mobility can be an issue with immaturity. So giving e-scooters to young children, for example, might be too dangerous. I think that's a good point. I think you can build in some smart technologies. For instance, scooters that automatically turn off if they get too close to a big road, so they're only usable away from the busy parts of the transportation system. And same with the cars. More and more, the cars have systems built in to prevent them from crashing into the car ahead of them if somebody slows down suddenly, and also lane keeping. So obviously pioneered by companies like Tesla. Anybody else have any questions?
So I have a question.
Yes?
Yeah.
So you were talking about electric scooters. You know that their traveling distance is a big disadvantage. Is also they have a lack of power. If you know this thing.
I agree.
I like,
Go ahead.
yeah, I
Because
like
if
to
you are liking to go towards some another city or a region, you are using any electric vehicle, you must know their traveling range. If they have somewhere around 40 kilometer, you cannot reach to a particular state. And for us cars, they produce a large amount of pollution, and you are just
yeah, I mean, I got
telling
the
its
question.
disadvantages. Then why are you using such cars that polluting your environment?
Okay,
Yeah, I got your question.
let's let Anit
I'd like to
respond.
say, yeah, I'd like to say that I also mentioned in the public transportation system that there would be a well-developed network of trams, U-Bahn, S-Bahn. So obviously you cannot use the e-scooter to go through a large distance. I think undoubtedly you'll prefer a source which is faster and more convenient. And e-scooters would be used to go from one place to the other, which have a shorter distance between them. The same as bicycles, e-scooters. The main purpose of e-scooters here is that people avoid using their cars, and e-scooters are not a means of transport which you can use to go for long distances. For that we have U-Bahn, S-Bahn, tram, buses, and
Yeah, for that U-Bahn and S-Bahn, you are saying
Mm.
they have disadvantages, like they do not have rural service, that they do not go to rural areas, and for that they also have a lack of door-to-door service, if you know this thing.
I
And
think we've
sometimes
developed. Yeah, go ahead.
it is like you must use your electric vehicle to go somewhere, and it is not necessary that every time a person can use U-Bahn and S-Bahn, because it is a high maintenance.
Well, I think it is high maintenance. It isn't actually high maintenance. Actually, and it has an overall benefit. When a lot of people use them, when we have a common source, then it is of overall benefit to our environment. And also, you did talk about mobility. What if I ask you an airplane? An airplane doesn't provide door-to-door facilities, right? But we have to use it to some extent. So we cannot provide door-to-door facility for everything. Maybe you could use an S-Bahn, and then you could take a bus, or if it isn't that large of a distance, hire a bike, hire an e-scooter, or if it's even short of a distance, just walk.
Okay, very good, Anit. I agree about a combination of technologies. For example, taking a S-Bahn or a train to a place that's far away and having an e-scooter in your own backpack for that last mile to help you. So a combination, but I think the key here is being flexible and open to new ideas. All right, well, I suggest we stop the recordings and give it time to convert the recording into an MP4, so don't close the meeting quite yet, Anit. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Good job, and thank you for the questions, everybody.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Well, this is a presentation from Group 14, and go ahead whenever you're ready.
Can you guys see it?
Yeah, I do. Look Far City Plan, Group 14. No, I don't think video is necessary, and it may also degrade the quality of the audio. So let's just go ahead with sharing your screen. You probably want to make that full screen slide there.
I actually am very bad at technology, so I don't know how to make this full screen.
Well, how about there in the lower left? No, that's probably add another slide. Anybody know how to
Yeah.
zoom into this to make it a full screen slideshow? Maybe double click?
Click on the play button.
On the top. Ah, yes, the little play button. It looks like a little triangle at the very top. Maybe rotate your phone back the other way. There you go.
Great, yeah, this works.
You just need to go back to the beginning of the slide.
But it's moving as a slideshow now. I'll just have to check it again.
Okay.
Okay, just a second.
Well, that was the quickest presentation ever.
Shavi, you can try locking your screen so it doesn't rotate.
I think we need to adjust the time when, like, this time of the slides, and that's not possible right now, right, guys? If I am not wrong.
So what we can do is, I think this is clear enough to be read. Mr.
Okay.
Brandt, do you think you can read the slides like this? Is that fine?
I hope so. We'll see how small the font gets. But yes, go ahead and just manually progress through the slides. Go ahead and start.
Okay, great.
Yeah, it looks fine.
Okay, so we're Group 14, and this is the city plan for Look Far, a city that we believe will be sustainable and green. And now Flora and Tonya are going to talk about the city's name.
Okay, so our city is named Look Far. So about the definition of sustainability, I think everyone is familiar with this already. Look far refers to looking forward to our future, not only present. If we keep destroying our environment and merely depends on the resistance, stability, and resilient stability of the environment will not be maintained as it couldn't withstand the disturbance of us anymore. Therefore, we need to look far, not only thinking about what we want now, but also protect the environment and think twice before we do something that are harmful to our environment. One more thing, look far sounds like greening in Cantonese, so it's one of our reasons to choose this name of our city. Next slide, please.
The team has worked collaboratively and divided their work by dividing the development criteria. So Flora has done the biodiversity part, and Tonya and Flora together have done the urban planning and green spacing. I, Chavi Arora, have done land, soil, and air pollution. Khushi has done renewable energy and education and transport system. That's a little bit about us and Hong Kong. So Tonya and Flora will be showing you.
So on the photo on PowerPoint, the right-hand side is me, Flora, and the left-hand side was Tonya. So we are friends and we are from the same school and same class. Okay, let Tonya to talk about Hong Kong now.
So about Hong Kong, the place where we're from, is a sustainable city which 75% of Hong Kong's territory is green. And for example, there are some parks in Hong Kong like Hong Kong Philodendron Park, Kwun Tong Promenade, and Hong Kong Wetland Park. And also, the consumption is environmentally responsible in Hong Kong. Like the zero carbon building is a special complex with zero net energy consumption and zero net carbon emissions to educate the public on energy conservation. And Hong Kong, to develop the renewable energy, Hong Kong government has relaxed restrictions on the installation of solar PV systems on the rooftops of village houses in new territories. However, Hong Kong has been named the world's worst city for light pollution due to the transportation and spotlights and LED billboards. Next slide, please.
So as you can see, now we're going to talk about Delhi and India. So India is one of the most populated countries in the world, and we believe that Delhi in specific needs to be more sustainable, as a lot of pollution is harming Delhi, and of course the green belt needs to be improved. The entire public transport system of Delhi works on CNG, which is a plus point. And now Khushi will explain the rest of the points.
Yeah, so one of the criteria for evaluation for our presentation is analysis of the issue. So now, since we've lived in Delhi, I have been brought up in Delhi, so I understand how Delhi works, and I see there's a lot of scope of being more sustainable as a city for Delhi. So if you look at Delhi, in the years 2000 to 2010, the number of vehicles doubled. So this meant more vehicular pollution, which led to air pollution, which is not good for us humans, right? So after this, what the Delhi government did was they launched odd even as a strategy. So which meant that on some days, only the number plates that had odd numbers in the ending could drive their cars, while other people who had even numbers would drive their cars on alternative days. So this was one of the strategies they used. And when we were building our city, we looked at all the strategies used by different places, and this helped us analyze the issue and come to a better solution. And like Chabi talked about the CNG system, this also helped us think about more sustainable ways to combat issue. Now, the overview of our city. So this is Lukfa, and this is how we want it to be. We're going to quickly just go through this overview, and then later on, each person will be talking about each criteria that we have looked at in this picture. So we believe it's necessary to have windmills. We also believe there's a necessity for a balance between the urban spaces and green spaces. We also believe it's a must to have biking lanes and pedestrian-only zones, as well as rooftop gardens and solar panels in residential areas. Next slide. We also believe when we're talking about becoming more sustainable and becoming a greener world, we need to look at the education system, because if we start at the bottom of the pyramid, if we start with the youngest beings, then only can we bring real change. We also believe it's necessary to have a public transport system that covers the majority of the city. And we need unhindered biodiversity as well as special express lanes to incentivize people to use public transport.
So talking about the first criteria of our city is biodiversity. The main purpose of designing our city is to make the city become more sustainable and environmental friendly. Just like what is on the PowerPoint, biodiversity is highly related to the environment because most of the species are kind of delicate. Without some of the element or good environment provided, the animals will leave the place and plants will die easily. Next slide. So the way to confirm the biodiversity of a city is, the first is to reduce pollution level. Talking about pollution such as air, water, and soil pollution will affect vegetation easily, as the plants are the origin of life. Without plants, nutrient cycle and energy flow will be interrupted. Also, therefore leads to the food web broken and finally affect the humans. Therefore, reducing pollution level is the most important and a direct solution. The detail will be discussed later again about pollution. The second one is complex vegetation structure. It could provide habitats and food for animals. Also, it could attract more animals to come over and live in. With more animal, pollination of plants will be confirmed. Therefore, it could maintain biodiversity. Next slide.
So the second criteria is urban green spaces. Urban green spaces are essential to human well-being, both physically and emotional. A green city should put efforts to make urban spaces better and healthier through different directions like economic, environmental, and constructive, etc. Also, green cities should add open space provision, affordable housing, and new communities. Many studies from the past 40 years so have shown that green spaces in urban areas are vital for human well-being. So how do we design the urban spaces for a green city? Designing private green areas are also essential. Using greening opportunities like housing estates, greening of schools and business areas, private gardens, etc. For example, 77% of Australian capital city residences have one or more trees in their private gardens. Private gardens, green areas present the largest opportunities for increasing tree cover in cities. Next slide, please. So, about designing public green area. Use public green open spaces for greenery is also important for a green city. They can establish street greenery, parks, and community gardens, etc. For example, green infrastructure enhancing Europe's natural capital in 2013 is one of the European Union's initiatives to promote the design and creation of more natural areas for sustainable development. And also, Urban Green Index is an indicator that allows the amount of green areas per inhabitant in urban areas to be calculated, as well as the surface area of green areas in the city. As a rule of thumb, urban residents should be able to access public green area of at least 0.5 to 1 hectare within 300 meters linear distance of their homes. For example, Singapore and its efforts to promote green space, they will have a display of 250-acre gardens by the bay. Next slide, please.
So mentioning green area, other than where should green area located, green is also the main point, which is vegetation. Planting trees or provided some grass land will be nice. Planting trees in a specific area, such as road or railways, are good to reduce noise and air pollution, which the benefits of planting trees will be talked more detail later. About the plant species, if the plants have allergic potential, it will affect the quality of life of citizens. Also, native species should be avoided too, as they will affect the wildlife. Native species may grow too much as the environment is very favorable to them. On the other side, they may die easily as the environment isn't suitable for them. So planting trees is not just randomly planted on the land, it needs to be careful too. Next slide, please. So building parks could confirm a city have enough green area. On the other hand, it could improve the quality of life. In our city, we hope to provide a better environment to not only nature, but also to the citizens. Stresses from work or school are increasing every day. Therefore, a place for people to relax is crucial. Staying at home all day might not be the best choice. Breathing fresh air or having a nice walk when the sun could let off the steam. So designing and the accessibility of parks should be concerned, as we hope to provide a nice atmosphere for citizens, and whenever they wanted to go to the park, they can access to there easily. Next slide, please.
So about the benefits of green area. A green area can have a greater biodiversity of a city. It leads to distinct and more complex vertical structure, and it is good for a sustainable city, and different plant layers result in different types of food and offers environments for animals. Secondly, it can improve mental health and increasing physical activities. A study has shown that not only does moving to a greener urban area increase mental health, but also that increased level of mental health lasts for a prolonged period of time. It encourages exercise, provides spaces for socializing, and reduces noises and other air pollution. It also has some psychological benefits. It can increase the attractiveness of a city. For instance, vertical gardens, green roofs, and parks increase a city attractiveness, since people perceive them to have a better quality of life and healthier and more sustainable spaces. Next slide, please.
So how does pollution affect a green city? As we all know, we are all living in a very urban space. But have we noticed how much pollution affects our daily life? There are 5 types of pollutions, mainly air pollution, water pollution, soil pollution, light pollution, and noise pollution. So here today, we'll mainly be talking about the 3 main pollutions, which is air pollution, water pollution, and soil pollution. So some measures to prevent water pollution. First of all the waste and chemicals that are regulated into the water bodies should be looked upon by the government, and all the industries should be monitored as to how much waste they allow in going into the water bodies. Second of all, cleaning and maintaining of lakes should be taken place, and purifying waterways is a very good method of controlling the amount of pollution that is released in the water. Then comes preventing soil and land pollution. None of us want to go on the road and see garbage around us, as it spoils the environment as well as all the greenery and happiness that we go when we go out. So proper solid waste management and segregating the waste at our home level is an essential feature in preventing soil and land pollution. Reducing toxic materials such as the electric cells and electric devices we use and how to dispose them in the right way is will reduce land pollution. Planting trees and of course reducing cutting of trees is a very important point.
Okay, renewable energy. So at LookFar, we aim to maximize the amount of renewable sources of energy we use and minimize the amount of fossil fuels we use as to reduce negative externalities. So we will levy a carbon tax, carbon cap and trade, and carbon capture and storage to reduce usage of fossil fuels. The primary function of carbon pricing will be to lower greenhouse gases, and it will make fossil fuels more expensive, thereby encouraging industries to reduce consumption of fossil fuels, and further makes renewable sources of energy a more attractive option than fossil fuels economically as well as environmentally. We also aim to use the revenue that we generate from these carbon taxes and put them to use for sustainable measures, which will lead to energy efficiency and we'll use them for other clean projects such as equipping parks with solar panels and rooftop gardening and fitting windmills, etc. And how we aim to incentivize the usage of renewables will be through feed-in tariffs, subsidies and rebates, as well as net metering. Next slide, please. So the solar panels we want to use are very different. We want to use amorphous silicon and nanocrystal silicon for the solar panels, as this increases the efficiency of conductivity of the solar cells, as well as decreases the cost of production, which remains a very big turn-off for customers when they want to buy solar panels, as it's very expensive to buy them as of now. So if we use these type of cells, it'll be cheaper, as well as the efficiency of the cells will also be increased. We aim to present them on the roofs of residences as well as schools and other localities. And we also aim to have wind farms in our city in isolated areas that will directly source energy into the electricity grid. We also aim to have a dam build which will provide a recreational facility, which is very important to one of our EAP objectives. And as you can see, all of our criteria are very much in line with the EAP objectives, and we aim to achieve them very coherently. And yeah, next slide, please. So reforming the education system, I already talked about this earlier. We believe it's necessary to start with the youngest and to shape their mindsets correctly so they know how important it is to value our environment. We will start with teaching environmental care with the youngest of kids, we'll do practical activities, and we'll ensure that they understand the importance of the environment. Next slide, please. These are a few examples. The students will be visiting zoos, collecting waste, separating waste into the correct dustbins, and they will also be talked to about the environmental problems, and they'll be told how they can help and how they can make an impact. So the transport system in Lukfa is going to be very different from anything you guys have ever seen. So we aim to maximize the amount of residential, business, and leisure space that is within the walking distance of public transport, as to incentivize people to use more of public transport instead of using their individual automobiles. So we aim to have cycling spaces and walking paths near all green areas, as well as also a only pedestrian zone in the city center to ensure that no cars will be there. We also aim for all the public transport to have eco-friendly fuels, such as biofuels and biogas and electric vehicles. We also will have a bus rapid system, which will have elevated platforms for buses and express lanes on highways, so people are more incentivized to use that. As per some data, the fuel efficiency of a fully occupied bus is 6 times greater than that of a single automobile. So we see how important it is to use public transport. We also believe that having these biking lanes and walking paths will be important for one's mental health, as it lets them relieve stress. An example that I have for that is in Canada, when people are free from their office and they are on their lunch break, they go and cycle, and that makes them very fit, because Canadians are known to be pretty fit. So that's one example I have, as well as we also want to have light rails in our city, because they're very cost effective and they're very low on maintenance. Next slide, please. Yeah, next slide. So we also aim to levy a congestion charge on people who will be in pre-designated areas on weekdays, as to reduce traffic congestion. Yeah. Yeah, next slide.
So some unique and sustainable features in our cities. So we all know that a lot of plastic is used all around the world. So in our city, when we segregate all the waste, we'll have a separate dustbin for plastic waste. And our aim there is to collect all the plastic and reuse it in roads. So in India also, 1 or 2 roads have started, 1 or 2 roads are made up of plastic now, and that is very essential to reduce the plastic as well as reuse it in a green sense. Then we have green buildings, as we've mentioned before. So we'll have the rule of planting at least 4 plants in and around your house, so that the oxygen levels are maintained. Then there are constant pollution monitors, so that when the pollution level rises, the government can know, and legally there can be action taken, such as when in Delhi the pollution had rise, odd and even scheme had been implemented, where the vehicles of the odd number were used on the odd days and the even ones on the even days. Then there can be hydraulic cars. This is also an innovation yet to take place. One of these hydraulic cars has already been used in India. So water is used in these cars instead of fossil fuels to run them. Each house will be equipped with smart meters to increase efficient use of energy, and smart sensors will be there to measure the pollution. Thank you. That's about it that we had from group 14.
Okay, very good, Group 14. I have a few comments to make. One was, I think you're very brave to try to use a phone as your hosting device. There's some trade-offs, but hey, way to try with the innovation. Another comment was the use of Minecraft to demonstrate the layout and some of the innovative features. I think that was quite innovative application of Minecraft. And last, I'm very pleased to see a collaboration successfully done between Hong Kong and India. Hopefully you guys had opportunities to exchange some perspectives. I see you were talking about your individual cities. So that's definitely one of the objectives of this project, is to have sharing between the different cultures. So you have a couple of questions here. One, Bhavya is asking about hydraulic or I think there's a different word, not hydraulic, it was hydronic or something, using water. And then Anit has a question about how would you levy carbon tax? Go ahead.
Okay, so the hydraulic cars have not actually been there in the market right now, but 1 or 2 cars have actually, they've actually been made in India. And since China, we all know how China wants every good aspect in their bag. So they offer the man in India that you give us that technology and we'll give you the money for that. But the Indian man has actually refused. He wants to do it on his own, even though it's going to be on a small scale. So these hydraulic cars actually work on water, and the salts such as I think aluminium salts, if I'm not wrong. And Khushi
Calcium
will be
hydride.
explaining. Oh yeah.
Calcium hydride reacts with water to produce acetylene, which is then burnt to produce energy.
Beautiful.
And then Anit had
Khushi, would you like to take the other question?
Yes, and quickly, we need to go on to the
Yeah,
next group.
yeah. Yeah, so carbon taxes are already being used. It's not something very innovative, but in our city, we want to use them very effectively. So your question was on what basis? Okay, so the carbon tax will be levied on the basis of how much carbon dioxide they're producing. So the more carbon dioxide they produce, the more tax they'll have to pay, which hence would make them take other alternatives, such as renewable alternatives, and how we would check the amount of carbon emissions. So all industries, they are liable to the government to show how much they're producing, how many greenhouse gases they're producing, and how what kind of disadvantage they're putting the environment at. So companies will have to reveal that data, of course, since it's ultimately affecting the country that they live in.
Okay, yes, I agree. Carbon taxes are fairly standard tool for the development of a green urban environment. And I'd like to see more about the hydraulic cars. Perhaps you can share more on a discussion forum or something. I think that's something most people have not heard of. All right, thank you, Group 14. Okay. So I'm recording the meeting. This is the presentation from Group 21. Go ahead, Vyakya. I guess you would share your screen.
Can you see the screen?
Yes, I can. Very good. Go ahead. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Zelene Mesto, a green and sustainable city designed and planned by Group 21. Zelene Mesto, which literally means green city in Czech. Let's meet our team. This is Sujal Tayal, a producer. Unfortunately, he couldn't attend today. Meher Kura, the researcher, Devraj, the city designer, Sanvi, writer, and that's me. But, well, we all did the research, but yeah. Moving on to the foundation and the infrastructure of the city. Our city uses pervious concrete, which is basically porous asphalt, which captures the storm water and does not allow it to run off and get wasted. In doing so, the pervious concrete has the ability to lower the overall project costs on a first cost basis. For example, a parking lot can be used to capture the excess runoff from rain falling both on itself and the surrounding areas. Like if you can see, this is normal asphalt. So this is the porous asphalt on which the rainwater is not standing like this. This is a comparison between the impervious and the pervious surfaces. The transport system of Zelene Mesto includes public transport because that is essential for a sustainable city. It includes bicycles, which is an integrated system of bridges, edge lane roads, pedestrian and bicycle priority streets, and cycle superhighways. This is an image of a cycle superhighway in Odense in Denmark. Buses and cars will use hydrogen as a fuel, which is emission free, and electric buses, and there will be separate spaces on the roads so to avoid traffic issues. We will also have maglev trains for long distance transport, which are super fast, and this is a layout of the transport system. Also, we will discourage the use of individual cars and encourage carpooling system. Also, the parking spaces and heavy vehicle areas will have suitable plants and utilize fighter technology to reduce the emissions and the greenhouse gases. The layout of the city. Zeleno Mesto is designed by zoning the various areas. For example, the residential area, commercial and office area, light industrial area, and heavy industrial area at the outskirts of the city. This will ensure that the pollution from the heavy industries and the does not reach the residents. There is overlapping in the residential, commercial, and office areas. However, the heavy industrial areas there's a clear separation with the green belts. This is an example. There's this buffer zone between the heavy industrial area and the light industrial area. It's the green belt and the central smart rail system. We also have solar and wind farms. Green cover. A city will naturally have green spaces and street greenery, which includes parks, biodiversity parks, urban forests, and green areas near the roads. Also, the buildings in our city are designed according to biodiversity sensitive urban design, which promotes human-nature interactions, that is, integration of biodiversity into the architecture and infrastructure instead of making separate fragments. Because the greenery in a city is not just the green cover, it's also the biodiversity. It includes positive on-site contribution to biodiversity. This is an example of a BSUD house. There are solar panels on the roof, different types of trees and plants to promote biodiversity, a green roof, and a garden. Now, green roofs and green walls. Since there is limited space within the city, we will be using green roofs and green walls. The benefits are in winter, they provide heat, and in summer, they have a cooling effect. They provide ideal sound insulation and mitigate the effect of the heat islands. They contribute to reduce the pollution and save money in terms of cooling and heating devices. And for biodiversity protection, we will have natural corridors for the roads, because these are the examples. For example, crossings like overpasses and underpasses for only the animals with no human intervention, connective habitat, and stepping zones. Rain gardens. Rain gardens are also called bioretention facilities. They help in conserving the stormwater runoff. This is an image of how rain gardens are made near the street to absorb the rainwater and recharge the groundwater. Separation of factory areas by green belts. These green belts will create a distinct separation between heavy industrial and residential, as well as the office areas, protecting the residents from air, noise, and heat pollution. It will also prevent the cities from becoming heat islands and significantly reduce the net emissions of the greenhouse gases. Now, moving on to the energy resources. This research was done by Sanvi. Sanvi, would you?
Yeah. So as we know, in energy is mostly used for residential and commercial, industrial, and transportation purposes. So the hurdles which wreak havoc in energy performance are lack of awareness, lack of technical knowledge, market distortion, capital shortages, and urban sprawl. Mester would follow the three rules of reduction in ecological footprint: use of solar biomass, cooperation between city and region, and recycling economy. We have taken examples from the following countries to make our recycling system a great success. Sweden, the program From Waste to Energy. Japan, optimizing segregation at Kamitkasu. Switzerland's waste reduction program, and South Korea's food policy. Apart from taking examples from these countries, we would follow the zero waste hierarchy, which starts from avoid and ends after 7 steps in dispose. From this hierarchy, we have derived some useful methods to improve our energy performance, like using traditional housing and temperature control materials, public transportation, waste and water management, and solar panels. The next topic, which is sustainable resource management, was researched by Devraj.
Yeah, so firstly, I would like to talk about water management. I would like to shed some light upon the problems which are related to water, like the problems due to which there is less availability of water. Firstly, an increase in population and a concomitant increment in the demand for water. And secondly, the problems caused by the lack of articulation and lack of consistent actions of governability of water resources and for environmental sustainability. As you can see the diagram, it shows the central position of water and how important it is to undertake immediate action for water management. There are some solutions to this. Initially, it should be considered that an economic evaluation of water resources, services, and of aquatic ecosystems should be considered to be an important foundation for future actions. There should be proper governance of water, promoting the management of water at the watershed level. Next, I would like to talk about green buildings as an aid to sustainable resource management. The buildings in an ideal GRUN should be LEED, which is Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design certified. LEED certified buildings help in promoting green cover and help in the conservation of resources by increasing water efficiency and saving on power consumption. In these two images, you can see the examples of LEED certified buildings. And now I would like to talk about the further threats to sustainable resource management. And I would also talk about an indicator of environmental sustainability. The three threats to sustainable resource management are population growth, urbanization, and energy use, and global warming. Next, I would talk about an indicator of environmental sustainability. The ecological footprint analysis is now widely used around the globe as an indicator of environmental sustainability. Ecological footprint analysis compares human demand on nature with the biosphere's ability to regenerate resources. This approach can also be applied to an activity such as the manufacturing of a product or driving a car. This resource accounting is similar to life cycle analysis, wherein the consumption of energy, biomass, building material, water, and other resources are converted into a normalized measure of land area per global hectares. Next, I would like to talk about some more solutions. Firstly, a sustainable source of energy, which is a solar chimney, can be put in an ideal GRUN. A solar chimney consists of three essential elements: glass roof, collector, chimney, and wind turbine. Air is heated in a very large structure similar to a greenhouse, and the resulting convection causes the air to rise and escape through a tall tower. The moving air drives turbines which produce electricity. This type of power plant provides enough amount of energy with no ecological breakdown at minimal cost. Most poor countries cannot afford environmental protection and without safety hazards, unlike nuclear power plants. Above all, There is no depletion of natural resources at the expense of future generations. Many countries are lavishly provided with solar radiation in their deserts. Net energy payback is estimated to be 2 to 3 years. Solar energy can also be used for heating and cooling, as you can see in the pictures below. And in the end, I would like to say that the construction industry consumes 40% of the total energy and about one half of world's major resources. Hence, it is imperative to regulate the use of materials and energy in this industry. Green and intelligent buildings and LEED certification have been evolved for sustainability of the construction industry. Now, Vyakya will be telling you about a green economy.
Green economy. The green economy in particular is defined as a system of economic activities connected with the production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services that result in better human well-being in the long term. To implement the circular economy, the starting point is a new design of manufacturing processes of products and services. They must be redesigned to ensure a longer durability of the item, easy repair, a possibility of reworking and upgrading, and a massive recycling of components and raw materials before the end of the service life. In this diagram, you can see how the raw materials are manufactured, distributed, and used and disposal, but they are again reused, and there is essentially minimal waste generated. Also, green economy includes the collaboration of business, citizens, and government, so that the business provides the financial share, the citizens includes the community willingness to cooperate, which includes the education at early stages, and environment-friendly lifestyles. The institutional setup includes subsidies on ensured green designs, higher taxes for non-green buildings, vehicles, and businesses. Here's the layout of Zelene Mesto. This is a sim designed by Devraj on SimCity. Our city will have solar panels for electricity, green roads, green source of energy like windmills, a park next to each building, greenways on top of roads, as I talked about the wildlife corridors earlier, buildings surrounded by ample greenery. This is an example of a green building, a centralized park, and this is an example of the zoning, how the Central Biodiversity Park, this is the area for the heavy industries, and this is the residential and commercial zone. Here's a video of Zelene Mesto.
I'm glad you have a video. Would you like to narrate it, Vyakya?
Is the sound not coming?
Yes, the sound is not coming.
Oh, just a minute.
There's a setting for share computer sound.
I'm sure. Can someone help me? Where is it?
That's okay. I'm sure there should be audio, but we need to wrap up anyways. All of the presentations are run.
I'll provide a link to the website later.
Okay. Let's go ahead and wrap up the presentation.
That would be the end of our presentation. We would like, I would share the website link with you.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Any questions for the group? I see, Mahak. That's okay. Well, I enjoyed the presentation. I think if someone cannot come in, like Abhijit could not come in, perhaps he might just have to wait or miss this presentation because he was late. And obviously, Vyake was quite busy trying to run share her screen. But I think spamming chat is not the solution there. Anybody else have any questions for Group 21? Otherwise, I think you guys did an excellent job. I enjoyed the graphics and the video of your simulation. Let's all go back to Adobe Connect. Okay, whenever you're ready. Do you have all of your team members here ready to go?
Yes, sir. I'll just check.
And are they going to share it from their screens, or are you just going to share it and they join the audio, or do you have one person narrating the whole thing?
No, sir. Not one person narrating the whole thing. We all are speaking some parts.
Great. That sounds ideal. Please go ahead whenever you're ready.
Is everybody from Group 22 there over here?
I am.
Yes, group, we are here.
Okay. So, sir, can we start now?
Yes, please do.
Sure, sir. Good evening, everybody. Our city's name is Tierra Feliz. This city was designed by a group of superheroes from Group 22, and we strongly believe that an investment isn't an investment if it destroys our very own planet. These are our team members who come from varying backgrounds all across the country of India. I am Dhruv Bhargava, and I am the narrator, and I come from Gurgaon.
Hello everyone, I am Chirag Gupta and I also come from Gurgaon. I am the producer of this project.
Hello everyone, I am Ojay Chetli and I am from Chandigarh and I am the city designer.
Good evening everyone, I am Nishita and I am from Chandigarh and I was the writer for the site.
Hello everybody, I am Utkarsh Rathore. I am the specialist and completer finisher of the group.
Hello everyone, I am Astha Agarwal. I am the researcher.
So first of all, the thing which we need to realize is that the cities of today have many problems and we're just living in them because we are forced to do this and we don't have many alternatives. Now, some of the problems which we face in our day-to-day life are the lack of urban space because of the population. Traffic is an everyday problem. Housing facilities are going less and less as per the demand. We are facing poor infrastructural problems. Waste management is another big problem. And some other major problems are pollution, water scarcity, criminal activities, inequality. Now, over here are some solutions which I've stated with the help of Gurgaon, which is the city in which I live. Moving ahead, we have the layout of Tierra Feliz. Tierra Feliz is our very own city, which means happy earth in Spanish.
First, planner of a city would pay attention to the environment as it is one of the most important aspects. Second, planners would indulge a few residents as it would help to improve the current city plans. Third, plans would be forward thinking to determine the space needed for future generations. Fourth, area needed of consideration would be given special considerations. Fifth, a city would be divided into different zones like commercial, residential, and industrial zones. Sixth, in a city, unnecessary concentration of public buildings would be avoided.
Moving ahead to the seventh point, our city will have various recreational centers to ensure that the residents are happy, and as happiness leads to good health. Moving ahead, there will be certain rights and privileges in our society which will be extended for the very specific reasons of fire protection and aesthetic conditions, etc. Most importantly, we have a city designed in ways which are planned for weather conditions because the weather is supposed to and expected to be more and more rough in the coming years. So a city will be ready to face all sorts of weather conditions. Moreover, our city will have a very good security and safety infrastructure which will be enabled by the IoT, which we will explain further. And lastly, our city will have a
management of waste generated, and regulation of water supply. What this means is that all the biodegradable waste, such as vegetable peels, etc., will be directly sent to the cow sheds. Liquid waste will have certain pipelines, and we will also contact the rag pickers and dealers to ensure greater employment opportunities. Moving ahead to the walkthrough of our city. Our city, Tierra Feliz, has a very innovative design because of the simple reason that it includes all of the modern ways in which we all expected, and it is a amalgamation of all the thoughts and creations ever thought of. Moving ahead, as you can see in this picture, Tierra Feliz incorporates a large number of solar panels. Moreover, there is a clear demarcation of the industrial area and the housing area, which will provide a cleaner atmosphere for everybody. Moving on to one of the very key aspects is that you can observe over here that each house has its own green area. Between the houses, there is a green area for the very purpose that each house should have a separate clean providing source. Moreover, buildings will have green areas on the top of them too, as you can see over here. Moving ahead, we have our visions. Now our visions comprise of two subtopics. The first one is what makes a city exceptional. Now, out of these, the most exceptional thing of a city is the IMCC criteria. What the IMCC criteria stands for is the Isolated Measurement Comparison Criteria, which further consists the ELW criteria, which is the air, land, and water subtopic. What this will do is basically this will consider different regions as separate ecosystems, and we will use sensors, IoT, cloud platforms, etc., so that we can clearly know the native pollutants and the pollutants coming from other regions, so that we can actively and passively combat the pollution coming into a city and going out of a city. The second topic is footfall harvesting or piezoelectric dance floors. So basically what this is that a city will have a technology which is known as footfall harvesting. This will be located in places of public transport, and the piezoelectric dance floors will be located in clubs, etc. The energy production of these is very high, which can be up to 2 to 4 joules of off-grid electrical energy, which is around 5 grids of 5 watts of power for the duration of the footstep. Moving on to cradle production. This is basically, in very short, what this means is that after we will do a clear demarcation between the biodegradable stuff and the technological components. The biodegradable stuff will be allowed to go into its source naturally, and the technological components will be allowed to be broken down into the raw materials, which will be later used to formulate new technologies. Moving on to the blue economy.
Okay, so the basic idea of the blue economy is to encourage innovations by young entrepreneurs who are inspired by nature and reap benefits to the society as a whole.
Okay, moving on to the forest cover and housing. This has already been covered in the walkthrough, and basically what this means is that each house will have its own green area, and green spaces would be encouraged inside the houses themselves, most importantly. Moving on to the factor which is known as the green government of Tierra Feliz.
Okay, so in our city, there will be a government which would especially look after all the matters related to the sustainability of the city.
Lastly, coming from clean energy from muscle power, this is very closely integrated with the piezoelectric tiles point. What this means is that our kinetic energy from our body will be converted to other forms of energy, which can then be used to replace the conventional sources of energy, which we usually use in our day-to-day life through various equipments like dynamos, etc. Now, a very important aspect of Tierra Feliz is that it covers almost each and every EAP objective. Moving ahead with the EAP objectives, the first EAP objective which Tierra Feliz covers is the green cover. What the green cover is basically, the green cover will help our city in various ways, which is basically to reduce pollution, which will in turn allow more water to seep into the ground and will help in better and better water management, which will in turn help to combat global warming. Now, what green cover also helps, which is a very unique and intuitive feature, is that it helps to provide better and better thermal insulation to the buildings of Tierra Feliz. This will in turn provide the habitats and the residents of Tierra Feliz a greater climatic and acoustic comfort because trees absorb sound. And finally, our city will provide each and every resident with a greater quality of life. Moving on to monitoring pollution. Now, this is closely integrated with the IMCC criteria. What the IMCC criteria will do in the monitoring pollution field of the EAP objectives is that we will basically have sensors in each and every corner of a city so as to ensure that we get precise outputs, which region is releasing how much pollutants, and how our efforts to combat this pollution release is working, and how much it's affecting in our day-to-day life. Moving on to transportation factor of Tierra Feliz.
Okay, so the following steps would be taken to make sure that the transportation in our city is sustainable. Firstly, there will be a 30% tax imposed on the non-electric vehicles and 10% on the electric vehicles. That would discourage people from using their personal transport, as well as give government more funds to maintain sustainability. Secondly, traffic bans will be imposed in areas where the pollution levels are known to exceed the permissible limits. Thirdly, the main focus will be to make the public transportation system available to everyone, affordable, efficient, convenient, as well as sustainable.
Moving on to the water factor of Tierra Feliz, because as the human population is ever growing, the water demand of humans also will increase day by day.
So the water in our city would be saved in the following ways. Firstly, we will use resource-friendly means of agriculture such as aquaponics and many more that would be explained by my friend later on. And secondly, we will use pure alta water filtration system that uses ozonation and biological activated carbon filtration, which is very energy efficient.
Moving on to the energy factor, because as we know, there are various times when our energy demands are very high and there are some times when our energy demand is very low. So in order to achieve this, there are renewable energy sources which we need to enhance and install. Now it is very important to understand that the real cost involved in installing solar panels, etc., wind harvesting systems is basically their installation charges. Once we install them and once we start using them day by day, these economic costs of implementing them and installing them are covered very fast as in a year. This will therefore lead to a zero energy production cost system. Moreover, our economic spendings will also decrease over time, because in a way we are literally cutting down our electricity bills so much, and we're only paying for the installation of these systems once in a year and then never for our entire lives. This will in turn help for the technological development of humans. And now one very important thing is that this will help too, because obviously the amount of energy which is produced by these sources will be very more as compared to that which we use. Therefore, we will have more and more energy during the times of maximum demand, and our impact on the environment will be reduced. Moving on to waste management.
So the entire waste management system will be based on idea of circular economy, blue economy, and cradle to cradle production. There would be a total ban on plastic use, and we'll use bioplastics such as that of sugar. Segregation would be done in each home, and blue and green dustbins would be installed.
Moving ahead to the food factor, because considering as we humans, our current life expectation and our the way we want to live is increasing constantly, our food is also getting more and more modern and luxurious. Therefore, satisfying the food of the residents is also very important.
So with regard to the ever-growing population, it is important that we now switch over to sustainable methods of farming that require less space. So first is Verti Crop, wherein vertical farming maximizes the food value and nutrition, and it greatly reduces the water consumption. Next up is the cubic farming system that has conveyor rotation method. This is where there is automated nutrient delivery and sufficient light to the plants. Also, it uses only 1/26th the amount of water that is used in traditional agriculture, thus making it sustainable. And lastly, we have the Bowery farming, where the entire growing process is managed indoors, automatically generating the ideal conditions for a plant and greatly reducing the water requirement based on the technology Bowery OS.
Moving ahead to IT. Now, basically, this is very closely related to the IMCC criteria and the use of sensors, which I have already explained. Now, one thing which is very important for Tierra Feliz, considering that it will be a city of millennials, is that we closely integrate the Internet of Things to our day-to-day life. What this means is that our sensors, our garbage collection system, and even our day-to-day life machines such as our cars, etc., should all be linked to a central cloud platform, which will in turn allow us to measure our environmental output, because we will basically have access to everybody's comings, goings, the pollution they release, etc., through a centralized cloud platform, which will in turn use the resources from a pollution control station. Moving on to the administration of Tierra Feliz, which is closely integrated with the green government concept.
Okay, so now coming to the composition of the green government, this government will be democratically elected by dividing city into equal areas by population, and there will be an upper ceiling on the age group as well, that is 25 to 55 years. Also, such governments in various other cities, if they come together, can make a huge difference in the global sustainability.
Moving on to the security factor of Tierra Feliz, because crime rates have been increasing constantly, and Tierra Feliz ensures and stands for security for all of its citizens.
So security is an important aspect for a very well-planned city, and so our city has cameras installed in all the houses and shops, and citizens will be given a choice of getting them connected in a huge system of integrated surveillance in the city. This will lead to mass monitoring. There will be a small fund as well that would increase the already present IT budget. We recruit young innovative talent to the government cybersecurity cell by promoting STEM education in schools and teaching the youth more about the IT industry.
Next, we come to the health facilities of Tierra Feliz, because as we all have witnessed, the COVID-19 situation has brought all of humanity to its knees, and we want to ensure and have to ensure that this never happens in a city like Tierra Feliz in the future.
Universal access to medical infrastructure will be ensured, and we'll follow such propositions such as going with local food choices, look ways into conserving water, and many more in order to propose the health system better. Also, ambulance could be available 24/7, and there will be no delay in reaching at any home. More and more doctors would be trained and recruited in order to maximize the reach of healthcare sector. We'll improve it such to an extent that people would feel safe and healthy living in a city.
Moving ahead to the education factor of India, so that even the poorest and least connected people can get more and more educated, so as to ensure that Tierra Feliz gets more and more developed. So basically, what the education of Tierra Feliz will consider is that our education system will be closely integrated, as we have seen in our lockdown today, that everybody, wherever they're sitting, whether it is in their houses, whether it is in their village, or in any corner of Tierra Feliz, as proclaimed by the UNESCO Nairobi cluster, our education facility will be provided online, and our education facilities would be provided free of cost to those who are utterly poor, who are utterly out of reach with the modern day society. Moving on to the economic growth, because as we know, without an economy, a city like Tierra Feliz cannot survive.
So sustainable economic growth is the one that can be created without any other economic problems. So first is the use of indigenous technologies as they're useful and cost effective. Then is the 3R approach, that is reduce, reuse and recycle, as it reduces the waste generation and pollution. Then is promoting environment education and awareness, as well as earth thinking, as it will help transform our lives to sustainable ones. And lastly, we have the carrying capacity, that is how an ecosystem can sustain a limited number of organisms for a long-term basis. Well, the sustainability of a region greatly depends upon the carrying capacity. And furthermore is the development of all the sections of society all together, along with the conservation of their ethnicities and heritage.
Moving on to sustainable housing, as we all know, today's process of constructing houses and living in them is not at all sustainable. So Tierra Feliz plans to combat them in very intuitive ways.
The complete city will be planned and houses will be constructed for everyone. Not even a single person would be left who is left under a roof. So everybody would be living in a home, big or small. We'll prefer small houses according to location, size, using local materials in their construction with recycled materials. And we'll also use soil for excavation. Insulation would be an important method in the houses, and air sealing would be done. Window and door selection would be excellent using triple pane windows. Sustainable housing materials would be used. Energy star appliances and LED lighting would be preferred. This in turn would make the housing better and better, and constructors would be hired to make it excellent.
Nearing the end of a presentation, we all have seen that the current COVID-19 outbreak has caught all humans unaware, and we all have had literally no plan for combating a situation like this. Therefore, Tierra Feliz will have very intuitive ways. First of all, we need to realize that there are certain actions which need to be made compulsory at the local level. Some things like these will be traffic bans. This means that there will be a complete ban on traffic whenever the emissions of the pollution emissions are above a certain limit. Moreover, there will be a special disaster management squad which will be trained and expertise in the specific field of combating diseases like COVID-19 and therefore helping people in such a case. Moreover, like we have seen today that less and less people are going to their offices, this will be made a rule in Tierra Feliz, according to which companies only have the right to bring those employees who have very important tasks into their office. This will in turn ensure a war-like preparation for Tierra Feliz on the healthcare front. We will have early warning systems which will help to prevent a COVID-19 outbreak. And if an outbreak happens, we will be better prepared and better stronger against it. All of these things will help Tierra Feliz to become one of the best cities the future has. Now, my team, Group 22, strongly believes that the best way to predict the future is to create it. And therefore, we present to you Tierra Feliz, which is the final and only solution that Earth has. And we all hope that Tierra Feliz helps to make Earth a better and happier place for all of you. Thank you.
Well, very good. I really appreciated the way that you addressed COVID-19 as well as your plan, and everybody got to speak and contribute. And you obviously have done a lot of research, so well done. Does everybody have any questions for this group about Tierra Feliz? Anybody? Any questions?
Sir, it appears that there are no questions. There are no questions.
Okay. Well, let's head back to the Adobe Connect meeting.
Okay, we'll start our presentation right now.
All right, go ahead, Group 25, whenever you're ready.
Is the screen visible?
Yes, it is.
Okay, then we'll start right.
Bonvi wants you to check the waiting room.
Greetings. I welcome you to a green utopia designed by Group 25 to the world of Casaria. The layout of the city has been designed by Gia. I, Parul, have helped this city take the form of a PowerPoint presentation. Khushi and Shashank have played a pivotal role by simulating the city. I, Parul, have also played the role of the producer. The content has been edited and condensed by Gia and Purvi. As you dive into the world of Casaria, we will narrate the salient features of our city. Attention please. A lot of thinking is involved behind the meaning and the language of origin of the city's name.
According to the layout of our dream city, the workplaces are in the vicinity of residential areas so that there is minimal traveling. There are also dedicated cycling lanes in the city. 1/4 of the city is under peripheral green cover, which includes green belt which separates the main city from industrial units.
Green walls. Green walls are also known as biowalls, allow plants to grow vertically and filter the air and water as it passes through it.
The 8 metric tons of plastic which chokes sea animals and haunts us takes over 1,000 years to decompose. So why not put this durable, flexible and lightweight plastic to use?
Solar trees. Solar trees is a new creative way of generating energy through sun. Solar panels are set in most of the direction as the artificial branches of the tree are in all direction. Hence, it helps in generating electricity from all the direction.
Now, if I talk about sustainable urban mobility, transportation of city is via underground electric railways. People use electric run transport. There are different charging stations for EVs. In this way, city has achieved sustainable urban mobility.
All the hospitals have the best doctors of our city. Here in Kasaria, healthcare is safe, effective, timely, equitable and people-centered. As working in a team can work more efficiently, we have elaborated in the third point for the same. We have introduced walking buses so that children can enjoy exercise, get fresh air, and a green way to start a day. Also, many activities are held regularly to make the children aware about the environment.
In our city, waste is either recycled or burned to generate electricity. Smoke of burning waste is further treated so that no harmful matter is released in the environment.
In our city, 25% of area is to be dedicated to green cover, 20% for biodiversity parks for preserving flora and fauna, and 5% for parks in city and peripheral green area. There is separate land for organic farming and mixed land use like shopping area in lower floors of workstations. All buildings will have water harvesting limits and solar panels at rooftop, and preservation of soil fertility by using organic compost and no chemicals.
And oh, there it is. That's Casaria. May such projects guide humanity towards a green and sustainable future. Thank you for your time and attention.
Okay, very good, Group 25. I guess that was Parul doing most of the narration. Amazing how talented your voice is there for almost acting out your part. And I enjoyed the presentation at the technical level as well. Not only was it beautiful, but it had some nice, a little video there of the city simulation. Does anybody else have questions for Group 25?
Thank you a lot, sir. Yeah, we are open to all questions. We didn't, we didn't present it because we already had the narration in the presentation. So I hope that wasn't a problem.
Oh, I think it's fine. Very nice. And I think it was Parul's voice that made me laugh several times because of her animation, like, oh, there it is.
Yeah, it was me. Thank you.
Very good. What do you mean by sustainable education? Anit has a question.
I think Khushi will answer that because it was her criteria and she has done most of the work on it.
Okay.
Khushi, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Sustainable education means I'm talking about here in the presentation. I was talking about the sustainable schools and the sustainable classrooms, where there will be everything. That means the schools will be made, and in those schools the environmental activities will take place. So, and there will be campaigns each year. 2 campaigns will be there in reserve forest, as we have set up there. And in the sustainable schools, the curriculum, it addressed that the curriculum should be always related to environment and sustainable development. So that's what my criteria for sustainable schools to explain it was that only.
Sharda has
I would like to add something. I think children are the future of any country, any planet, the universe. Like we are the ones to explore it now. So I think if the idea of sustainability is embedded in them, then they'll able to work towards it more efficiently, and there will be more people who will spread the idea of sustainable development. So schools and education, like it was said, it is rightly said that education is the most powerful weapon. We are using education to spread awareness among little children about sustainable development.
Yes, and that too in sustainable schools, which will make it more efficiently.
Sharda had a question about the strength of the houses built with plastic bottles. from what I saw, that the plastic bottles are contained within a mesh. So I imagine that it depends on more of the structure of the house as far as is it steel or wood, and then how strong is the mesh that contains the bottles.
Yes, Brand. I was literally expecting this question. First of all, I would like to say that actually this idea has been implemented in London, and as you have seen in my Gruen post on this criterias, when we had to mention the criterias, I had mentioned that there's a whole village that has been made upon these plastic bottles. And moreover, I would like to even clarify that when we address to plastic, it's not plastic, that's the plastic bottles we use. And I would like to even give you a fun fact that you all must be knowing about Mangalyaan, India's mission to Mars. Is anyone aware of this one? Mangalyaan. India was the first successful country to send a satellite to Mars in the very first attempt. It was even made of plastic. So, like when I refer to plastic, it is not plastic as in plastic bottles. Even our computers are made of plastic. So there are different types of plastic which would be put to use in different ways, and these plastic is really efficient because first of all they are durable. Like if they can survive when thousands of years in the ocean, you know, surviving all the climatic changes, floods, and also I think it would be really efficient if we use them in our houses. And secondly, the thing I would like to say here is that moreover, like plastic, like different types of plastic could be put to use. For example, we can use our computer. We can like in London, there's a whole house which is made up of plastic and is really working efficiently till date.
Okay, very good, Group 25. I think we're a little bit over time, so we should head back to the Adobe Connect. We'll stop you to record, and I am recording. All right, so Manasa, I look forward to the presentation from Group 26. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Yes, sir. Hello and namaste. We are Group 26 and we welcome you all to this short overview of our city, Hiravan. The term Hiravan is derived from two words, Hira meaning greenery and Van meaning a forest or a beautiful place. Also, Hira means a diamond in Hindi, and this indicates that this city would be as precious as a diamond. So these are some facilities the city would be equipped with. The residential areas are divided into blocks with a market between every 8 blocks. The houses include large skyscrapers along with penthouses and eco-houses. And eco-houses are houses with wide hollow walls or 2 normal walls to regulate the temperature of the house naturally. Also, these houses would have an underground water storage system which would also purify the water up to some extent so that it can be used for many purposes by the people. Rainwater harvesting is a must.
As the name of our city says that it would be full of greenery, therefore we are adapting the technique called vertical gardens. A vertical garden is a technique used to grow plants on a vertical suspended panel by using hydroponics. This unique structure can either be freestanding or attached to a wall. It is not important that a city is called green city only because it is full of greenery, but then only when it also cares for its natural resources. Therefore, our city will use alter-nozzle taps to save one of the important resource, water. After installation of these taps, the water will come in spray mode, which will save up to 85% of water. Next. For the development of any city, there is the requirement of industries. Therefore, in our city, the industries would be present in the outskirts of the city. They would adopt carbon capture and storage technique, which is the process of capturing waste carbon dioxide. They will also maintain a carbon passbook.
as we are maintaining pollution in our city, so we are installing tall chimneys with filters in industries and power plants. Why we need to do this? Because filters will trap all the solid substances and throw out smoke in the form of gas only, so it will reduce the pollution to some little bit extent. Why these chimneys should be tall? Because smoke usually thrown at high level so that the smoke cannot harm the citizens directly. If we filter it out while it is thrown and capture the solid harmful particles, will be very good for our environment. The main source of electricity in Hiravan is hydroelectricity, since it is only conventional energy which is renewable. The city promotes solar energy in offices, commercial buildings, along with schools and colleges. Solar panel in Hiravan are butterfly wings solar panels, which is new technology inspired from the wings of butterfly. Physio, electricity is a great utilization of force of gravity to create energy. It will be used in roads and metro tracks to produce electricity. Wind energy would also be used for the various other purposes like large wind farm would be put up. This would act as a backup in case of power cut.
So the water supply and sewage. The water treatment plant would take up the water from the river and make it potable. The sewage treatment plant would be located in the outskirts of the city and it would purify the water from all sources. A sub-unit of the sewage treatment plant would keep a regular check on the water quality and prevent industries from dumping untreated toxic waste into the river. Heaven in our city. Our city would have large parks and vertical gardens along with urban forests which would have high connectivity and would yet be reserved and accessible to the people. In the outskirts of the city, there is a large biosphere reserve called the Hiravan Biosphere Reserve, which would have huge diversity of flora and fauna.
Mobility. In Hiravan, expanding public transport was thus the major step in the revolution in the transport sector. So, metro was chosen as the most prominent public transport running on electricity. Private transport would also be promoted to be pollution free. The heavy cargo is transported through airships, which work upon air and some little bit extent of electricity. Many public transport like buses, ambulances, fire brigades, etc. are to be solar powered.
Waste management. The waste from all the sources is divided into two parts, the biodegradable and the non-biodegradable waste. The biodegradable waste would be mostly recycled to reduce the waste generated, and the biodegradable waste would be further divided into two parts. And
In chimneys, no fresh air.
sir, are you saying something?
No, just waiting for the slideshow to continue.
Okay, 1 second, sir. Sir, I just heard your voice, so I stopped it.
Oh my god. Direct I'll switch the AC on.
Yes, sir.
Also, it causes pollution. Chimney, yeah, true. She is a great girl. On to कर. ये girl वो है. इनका
Sir, actually, it's not completed. Sir, it was not completed actually.
Okay. I think you have more slides, don't you, after mobility?
Sir, I
Yes.
can hear your voice. Can I start it again? Actually, I can hear your voice. I guess there's some connectivity issue.
Well, try to pick it up from the slide that you ended on. I think it was about public mobility.
Yes, sir. I just want to do it again. Yes, I've shared it. Shams, can you please continue?
Mobility in Hiravan expanding public transport was thus the major step in the revolution in the transport sector. So, metro was chosen as the most prominent public transport running on electricity. Private transport would also be promoted to be pollution free. The heavy cargo is transported through airships which work upon air and some little bit extent of electricity. Many public transport like buses, ambulances, fire brigades, etc. are to be solar powered.
The waste management. The waste from all the sources is divided into two parts, the biodegradable and the non-biodegradable waste. The non-biodegradable waste would be mostly recycled to reduce the waste generated, and the biodegradable waste would be further divided into two parts, one of which would be sent for biogas production and the other for composting in underground landfills. So the health of Hiravan. Technology is an integral part of the healthcare of Hiravan. It includes robots and artificial intelligence, which would do various tasks like filling up forms and helping in organizing the hospitals and clinics. They would also perform certain tests and x-rays. They would perform operations under the supervision of a doctor to increase precision and decrease blood loss. Humanoids like Mitra would be used to safeguard doctors from diseases like COVID-19, which pose great threat to them. In these times of COVID-19, India has come up with a humanoid robot which has a thermal camera which thermal scans the patients so that the doctors do not get the disease. So the structure of school, the school will have a circular building which would have a rooftop garden. They would work upon solar energy and the curriculum would promote gardening and caring for the biodiversity and ecosystem. The schools will have outdoor classrooms with large playgrounds and a greenhouse. To security, these are some measures taken to keep the city safe and secure.
Like every coin has two sides, there is a possibility of any kind of disaster which may harm Hiravan and its citizens. To cope from the likely losses from any disaster, we will have a QRT, that is Quick Responsive Team. The main motto of this team shall be to respond as quick as possible to minimize the loss or damage. Preparedness for mitigation of loss or damage will also be the responsibility of this QRT.
So these are some innovative ideas by our group members. This is the Autorad system. The Autorad system helps us save water during irrigating the fields. The Autorad system has a moisture sensor which will detect the moisture levels of the soil, and when the moisture level is less than the desired preset value, then it automatically turns the motor on. As the water level of the soil increases, the Autorad detects the rise in the moisture levels, and as it reaches the desired value, this motor is turned off. The system uses drip irrigation to further save water. This is applicable to both vertical farms, which are the major farms in the city, and also classical farms. So the city promotes farmers to grow fish along with crops like rice, which require a lot of water. This has been a traditional practice in China and many parts of India. This reduces the farmer's cost for fertilizers and pesticides. So we have modified the Autorad system, which has a pH detector. It neutralizes the water and purifies it to some extent so that it can be reused by the farmer for various purposes.
For better garbage management, we have thought of robotic bin, which could help people to dispose of the garbage smartly. Now, it would be a self-programmed robot which will have sensors and other tools to help citizens disposing of their garbage.
These are some pictures and layout of the city. This is the basic city plan, and as you can see, the city is on a plain land and has a river flowing through it. An artificial canal divides the banks into two, and the other bank has a biosphere reserve. So this is how our city looks. These are the offices with vertical gardens and rooftop gardens. These are vertical farms with solar energy. Vertical farms reduce the wastage of land, water, and energy. These are the waste management and the electrical urban mobility. And if you can see closely, then you can see those street lights which have solar panels. These take up the energy of the solar energy in the morning and light up in the night. So this is the sustainable cargo transportation. This works majorly upon air and up to some extent electricity as well. These are the clinics with solar energy, and these clinics also have a green environment so that the patients can have a positive mindset, which helps them to recover quickly. This is one block of the housing society, which has a garden in between. These are some pictures of Hiravan. This is the layout of the city, which has been made by Vijay, our city designer, who unfortunately could not come up to this presentation. So this is how our city looks. Hope you like it. And please don't forget to visit our website. Our website, we have included a lot of information in our website about the city, which we could not obviously include in this short information, in this short presentation. We also have videos on both the website and on YouTube, so you can check them out for more information about our city. We would now like to answer your questions.
Okay, very good. Congratulations, Group 26. And remember that it's all a good experience. Anytime you're presenting, especially with a lot of technology, there may be some issues. So it's learning to deal with that and just, try to stay relaxed. So I saw that there was some good questions about why circular schools and why do we need an irrigation system, and also a bit of controversy about whether or not you can have filters in chimneys. So would you like to answer some of those questions?
Sir, I've got some more questions, sir, including the chimney one.
Okay, well, let's type them in. Type them in, and they can either respond in audio or in type chat. Would anybody like to address the one about the circular schools? That looks like Kuala Lumpur there with the Twin Towers.
Well, that is, the circular schools are just about the building. It is just like normally, it looks good like circular schools. And if there is a circular school, if you can have a large playground around the school, like it is just for how it looks, not any technical things about the school. The structure is just like that.
Okay. I see there's some controversy about filters on chimneys. I know in Hong Kong we have coal-burning power plants that use some kind of water-based scrubbers to remove particles from these large smokestacks. I'm not sure
Sir,
if that's...
that is when the chimney is not working, I guess. When the chimney is working, the temperature is too high for filters to survive, because in order to clean the air, the filters have to be installed pretty low in the chimney. Otherwise, the pollutants will settle down. So when and as you reduce the altitude of the filters, the heat will increase, and the filters can't sustain in such an environment.
I agree with a conventional filter, but I think water-based scrubbers might be able to work. I know they work in large smokestacks, so there may be some technological issues that need to be overcome. For instance, ceramic filters, things like that. All right,
Yeah.
pipes for gardening. fertilizer and pesticides. I remember the one about the biome with the fish and the crops and how to maintain that pH balance. That was interesting. And there's the link for the website from Manasa. All right, well, we're running a little low on time, so I think we should head back to the Adobe Connect. So let's finish recording, head back to Adobe Connect. All right, I'll start the recording for group 30. This is the presentation. And I guess Chaitanya, you're going to be the host. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, well,
I'll start screen.
Whenever your group is ready, go ahead and present. Yes, I see your screen. Go ahead.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. So greetings to all. My name is Chaitanya and I'm a part of Team 30. I'll be presenting my Green City design today. And I tried to boil it down to 10 minutes, but evidently that did not happen with the others. Okay. So this is my website and these are our aims. We aim to build a city that keeps its residents in touch and at one with nature. We respect nature and do not use technologies that tend to create a heavy positive ecological entropy. We aim to keep our citizens happy and healthy. We aim to set an example for the development of new sustainable cities, and we aim to achieve a circular economy. This is our team. And we'll be starting with the city design, which is obviously the most important aspect. At the heart of our design principles is transit-oriented development. Our city features a rather unconventional, but a much more efficient circular design, which gives us a better space utilization ratio compared to the traditional grid design. The city is further built up of concentric circles, which contain different types of buildings. Each layer is separated by a forest belt. The innermost layer contains the town hall and the central transport exchange and the headquarters of the city departments. The outer layer consists of offices and commercial spaces. The third layer will consist of residential areas. They will be arranged into self-sufficient city blocks, each complete with a school, a cultural center, a police station, fire department, a hospital, a sports center, and a market to purchase day-to-day essentials. These blocks will all be a car-free zone. Citizens will walk on foot or use bicycles. Small low-powered battery-powered vehicles may be used by the senior citizens on small separated roads. There will be no big metal roads and these blocks will be arranged like huge parks with buildings. The green area amounts to about 33% of each block. Of course, payments will be created for the people to walk and ride bicycles. These blocks will be spaced using the golden ratio to ensure maximum space utilization. The outskirts of the city are separated by a thick forest belt and contain the farms, the industries, and the airport. For transport, we have electric trams that run back and forth radially along these blue lines. To provide the last mile of TOD, each tram station has electric cab stations and bicycle stations so that citizens can travel among the blocks. Transportation. One of the fundamental aspects as discussed before is TOD, right? Traveling within city blocks will be done by foot and no cars can enter it. This is like the Fußgängerplatz in Germany. For traveling among different blocks, bicycle stations will be provided as outlined earlier and trams. Waste management. Our city uses a highly sophisticated waste management system. We collect waste door to door and the citizens are required to sort their waste in categories like this. We have broadly 4 categories: biological waste, recyclable waste, plastics, and non-treatable waste. Waste management. The biological waste will be treated in large biological digesters where it will produce biogas and the sludge will be used as manure. The recyclable waste is collected in many recycling centers set in each block, right? And the methods are specific to the objects, which have been discussed in detail in documents. And plastics. We have tried to ban plastic, single-use plastics in our city. However, plastics cannot be completely eliminated as they are an essential component of today's world. So to manage the plastic waste, we use plastic eating bacteria, like as mentioned in the document, right? This digests the plastic into harmless carbon compounds, which may then be used to generate electricity of a synthesis of other organic compounds. And then we have non-treatable waste, composite objects, which are made up of many different materials. It is not possible for us to separate them. So we incinerate those wastes into clean waste to energy plants, right? And then we use the energy to supply to a grid. It is only natural that people can make mistakes while sorting out the trash. Therefore, to avoid any mixing, we use an AI-powered robot which sorts the garbage to ensure that there is no mixing. Energy. Our city derives 100% of its power from renewable sources of energy. The following 4 sources are utilized: wind energy, solar energy, biomass energy, and waste energy plants, right? Wind energy is our primary source of energy. Instead of using the traditional surface turbines, we use these low altitude airborne turbines. These utilize atmospheric winds that are much more consistent than surface winds and are much stronger. These are very consistent and provide huge amounts of electricity. I have attached some sources that prove the following. Each city block will host one or more such turbines that provide consistent wind energy. To provide them from being damaged, they can be retracted onto special structures that will be built. Solar energy is costly, but still we use them as rooftop solar panels, and we use them in building integrated photovoltaic system. We install solar panels on commercial buildings using this technology. Now, storage of energy is a major issue because energy usage changes by time. Therefore, we use 2 methods. One is pumped hydro storage, and that actually depends whether or not we are close to a water source. Therefore, we use Tesla's Powerwall technology that is installed at each house and allows us to store electricity and use it at peaks and lows as required. Next, we move on to education, which is a very important aspect. We have a very sophisticated curriculum and we've taken inspiration from the German system of education, right? Our focus is on understanding rather than rote learning, and development of interpersonal skills, personality development, and application of practical concepts. Our school is divided into three main branches: kindergarten, elementary school, and then secondary school. The kindergarten is as in any other school. The elementary school is a bit different. Here, all the students are absorbed on various parameters, including academic ability, interpersonal skills, classroom participation, and based on that observation. In the elementary school, they're given the same education, right? And based on that observation, they are sorted into 2 groups: the academic and the non-academic or the vocational group. The academic group consists of students who are more academically inclined, whereas the non-academic group consists of students who are good at sports, music, language, etc. So to cater to the individual needs and to ensure that each student is being taught what they want to learn and what they are good at, we sort the students and divide them into these 2 schools. Now we have water management. Water is a very important resource for any city, and we have taken steps to ensure optimum utilization and no wastage of water. Right to safe drinking water and right to security against water scarcity and floods are fundamental rights in our city. Our focus is primarily on 3 goals: resilience, efficient supply and minimizing wastage, and ensuring quality. By resiliency, we refer to the fact that a city will have a well-developed mechanism for coping with excesses and droughts. By efficiency, we mean efficient usage of water, minimizing wastage, and optimizing transport. By quality, we refer to the fact that our citizens are provided with good quality of drinking water, minimizing wastage. Water leaks from pipes, plumbing fixtures, etc. are a common sight. Therefore, we have ensured a water brigade, like a fire brigade, which regularly checks the water outlets. This is some form of a community service. This is done by children as a part of, community involvement to teach them responsibility and to help form good future citizens. A hotline is in place to inform the authorities about any leaking taps. And no industries, hotels, and amusement parks can use water from a community water body or extract water from ground wells without a city government license. Even licensed establishments cannot use in unlimited quantities. The water supply will be metered, and exceeding the supply will incur fines. Each house also has meter connection, and in accordance to the United Nations Resolution of 1612, we allot 75 liters of water per person a day. Any household that exceeds this quota must pay fines. All the water storage systems in Czech are state of the art and have systems to check wastage like detection and overflow. To ensure best sewage treatment, we have two separate sewage channels. One is for the toilets and the other from the basins and the sinks. We will discuss this in detail later. Water storage for contingencies. Every building in the city must have a rainwater harvesting mechanism. Here's a nice little diagram. And no private ground wells are allowed, either for household usage or for agriculture. And all the walking spaces in the city have this permeable paver stone. Right? This allows the rainwater to sink into the ground. Wastewater treatment. Sewage, as mentioned before, is collected in two channels. The alpha channel carries sewage water from the toilets and the beta from the basin, sinks, showers. Now, to ensure that the wastewater that is treated is used properly, we separate this, right? Now, alpha sewage is treated in the following way. First, coarse screening, then anaerobic digestion, and then the sludge is used as manure. You can read this in detail in the document. It's just a bit too long to explain. And then we have beta sewage. We ensure that we treat for heavy metal ions and persistent organic pollutants so that none of these enter the environment. And then we have usage of wastewater. The treated wastewater from alpha sewage is used to water plants across the green spaces in the city. There is a special watering system in place to supply water. And the treated wastewater from beta sewage is used much more in quantity and is supplied to industries to be used and to houses as grey water to be used for flushing the toilets. Tackling water pollution. We have banned the usage of pesticides and excessive fertilizers. And water bodies in the city are given a status equal to that of humans. Land around the water bodies is under scrutiny and vigilance. Dumping of any solid waste into the water bodies is prohibited. Now, I would like to invite Aditi, who will now discuss governance and health.
So, yes, governance. So, there is a famous Sanskrit shloka, Yatha Raja Tatha Praja. As the king, so the people. So, working on the lines of this shloka, we have ensured that good, educated, and environmentally conscious people come to power, who work not only for the welfare of the citizens, but also for the welfare of the environment. The government not only encourages people to live and buy eco-friendly, but it also sets an example by doing the same itself. So we have three organs: legislature, executive, and judiciary. In legislature, some of the seats are reserved for the people coming from various fields of science and technology, literature, etc., and also for different NGOs and civil societies. Now, this has actually helped us draft eco-friendly policies based on the ground level experience of the NGOs and civil societies. Apart from the different departments that constitute the executive, we also have a department for clean and green environment and a department for green research and development. So the former, it is responsible for drafting rules related to the environment for various industries, cooperatives, etc. And it also gives them license and also takes appropriate actions on those who are found guilty of disobeying these laws. The latter, it is responsible for developing green substitutes to the items that degrade the environment, and it also develops eco-friendly technology. So in this way, we have a green government. Now, I would like to take up health. So health and happiness, they are the top priorities of our authorities. Well-developed health infrastructure along with enough hospitals and healthcare facilities. So overall preparedness to cater to any kind of health emergency, it is very important. In our city, hospitals, they are located at a walking distance. Free and quality healthcare, they are fundamental rights in our city. We also provide free and anonymous counseling services, expensive and regularly used medicines, along with medical devices like stents and implants, they are subsidized so that the poor people can also afford them. The community sports activities such as marathons, yoga sessions, etc., they are regularly conducted. Enough green spaces, low AQI, and peaceful environment. They also promote the physical and mental health. Physical education and student-maintained kitchen gardens, they are compulsory. The residential areas in our city, they are designed in such a way that the people, they walk and cycle more. Now, I would like to take up the topic of green lifestyles. So, apart from adopting eco-friendly practices outside homes, the citizens of a city, they live a green life inside their homes as well. From kitchen to their backyard, they conserve the resources and use eco-friendly products. So they take their own reusable cloth bags to the markets. They reuse or help us recycle the packaging materials. They make conscious choices as consumers and buy eco-friendly fabrics. They also segregate their waste properly. Now, they don't use automatic dishwashers and clothes dryers. This saves a lot of energy. They try to buy vintage and donate their used clothes. They don't use detergents that use chlorine and phosphates. They pollute the environment. Most of them grow their own groceries in the backyards or they do container gardening. So in this way, they live a green lifestyle. Now, I would like to invite Chaitanya to take up.
Okay. So next we'll be discussing air quality management. We use 100% renewable energy, so no emissions, and vehicles in our city are either electric or hybrid. And we have very few vehicles due to the TOD nature of our city design. And industries are required by law to install pollution scrubbers and catalytic converters, which we'll discuss later. The entire public transportation system runs on the renewable energy. And the city has forest belts that act like sponges and absorb various greenhouse gases. Since most of the typical sources of pollution in an urban setting are eliminated, our city has a very healthy air quality and the citizens do not need to use any masks or anything. Industries. Industries are a major source of pollution in any urban city. So the industries in our city will be located on the outskirts, separated from the main city by a forest belt. All the industries must operate in compliance with strict environmental protection laws. All the energy used by the industries is sourced from renewable sources, and the water is recycled wastewater. Here's how we deal with different types of industrial waste. Industrial sewage. All the sewage must be treated in-house on-site by the industries. The treatment process may vary according to the nature of the industry. However, any industries that produce heavy metals or persistent organic pollutants must actively filter them on-site. Industrial exhausts must be purified by wet scrubbers and catalytic converters. And industrial waste products like slag and fly ash cannot be dumped into landfills. They must either be used back, recycled, or integrated into other products. For instance, fly ash can be integrated into concrete in small quantities to build houses. Next, we have eco-housing. In our city, the houses are energy efficient and eco-friendly. We focus on construction of the houses. We try to minimize the construction waste. We try to save energy. We have well-developed ventilation systems and big glass windows. And we use thermal regulated materials like polycarbonates and hollow bricks. These type of implements decrease the cooling costs and heating costs, which amount to a huge portion and take the lion's share of our energy usage. We also have banned the production, export, and usage of halogen bulbs. Most of our houses use self-adjusting LED bulbs, which last longer and save energy, preventing water wastage. We have a metered water supply. We practice rainwater harvesting, and we have compulsory water alarms to prevent overflows from tanks. We have faucet aerators that decrease the amount of water in the stream. We have sensor taps in commercial and public buildings. And we maintain a 1:5 ratio per house between soil and concrete. Air quality management has been discussed before. This is a diagram that gives an example of the cooling and heating systems. We have tried to prevent mechanical heating systems because they use a lot of energy, and we use such clever mechanical systems that use the natural environment to heat or cool our houses. Such vertical gardens have been installed to regulate temperature, and air conditioners have been abolished in our city. Agriculture. The farms are located on the outskirts of our city, as shown in the diagram, where we grow produce organically without using pesticides or fertilizers. We keep the following factors in mind: building and maintaining healthy soil, managing water wisely, and minimizing air, water, and soil pollution. All the farms are bounded by forest cover, and the energy to run the farm implements is obtained from renewable energy. All the crop waste is turned into manure, which is again used to feed the farms. Here are some pictures that show the green space. This is an example of the forest belts that separate different layers of the city. So this is an average residential area. Vertical gardens have been installed at homes and public spaces, terrace gardens, and we have used bio walls extensively throughout our city. I would now like to conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Can you hear me okay, Chaitanya? I thought your presentation was good. I did have one question. You mentioned that you would ban air conditioning from your city. Was that correct?
Yes, yes.
Well, as climate's
So that would not be practically feasible.
difficult, especially as climate's getting hotter and hotter in some parts of the world. But I think you might consider, building down into the hillsides and things like that to use natural cooling.
Yes, we did implement a lot of other measures. We have installed cooling systems into the architecture of buildings, right?
And Anit
then
wants
we
to know,
have the
how are you going to build good
gardens.
soil? Did you want to address her question?
Yes, by good soil, I mean we ensure the quality of the soil does not degrade over time. Modern farming practices use huge amounts of inorganic fertilizers and pesticides. These kill the natural ecosystem of the soil. They kill the earth forms and the microorganisms, which naturally maintain the quality of the soil, right?
Yes, and I think it's a wise move to be aware and consider the issues with soil quality. Any more questions from anybody?
I have a doubt. Can I?
Sure, go ahead.
So you said that bacteria can be used for treating plastic. If the nature continues in its way, so it's possible that the bacteria could even evolve more and eventually start attacking other forms of plastic. So, and
Yes.
that may end up damaging structures and products that are yet to last. For example, many, as you said, that almost many things are made up of plastic. So, how are you going to combat this issue?
That is an excellent question. Proper containment measures will obviously be taken, and these bacteria will be genetically engineered, as far as I know, to eat only certain types of plastic. And we know that there are many different types of plastics, right?
Yeah, so
So
maybe they
yes,
may be genetically modified, right?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, very good. Well, good job. I think you ran a bit long. Keep in mind that when you're the last group, you have the option of presenting as long as you'd like, actually. But when you're in a more of a conference setting, like a real world in the building, they're going to be more strict about sticking to a timeline. So keep
Yes,
that in
I'm
mind in
sorry.
the future. That's okay. It depends on really what your current context is. In this context, it's probably okay to run long, but because you're the last group. But if you're in a conference, a physical conference, they're probably much more strict about time. So you might want to think about ways to boil it down to slideshow as opposed to scrolling through a document. But I enjoyed all the information you presented. Obviously, a lot of good research there. And I think that concludes our presentation today.
Okay, I have also
Go ahead.
pasted a link to my website. Please go through it.
I had some questions regarding the presentation.
Go ahead,
Go ahead.
Sharda.
So firstly, like you said that between the city blocks, cars would not be allowed. And the only pedestrian and cycles would be allowed.
Correct.
So what about the senior citizens?
I did
Like
mention
who
that.
can't
I
walk
said that we have small battery powered vehicles that they can use to go around. I didn't mention it explicitly.
Oh, and you said that all the 100% of the energy would be through renewable sources, and even the heating system would be through natural sources. But like sun, it is dependent on the climatic conditions. It also depends, and it can vary. Like someday the sun cannot be will not be accessible to solar energy or the wind energy. So what is the backup?
Okay, that's a good question. Of course, there are backup measures too. For instance, if it's too chilly outside, you can close the doors and then use heating, which has been powered by electricity. We could provide a
Or like the
backup.
other things, like if you are running hospitals or something like that, and if you cannot access the renewable sources of energy, then
No, of
any
course,
backup like thermal energy.
hospitals will have a temperature controlled environment. That is absolutely essential.
No, I'm talking about the basic energy supply, like the electricity and the working of other things. The basic energy supply was for 100% renewable sources and natural sources. But what if they are not available at some point of time? So any backup energy source which you can use at that time. That was my
We
question.
could have a backup fossil fuel generators.
Yeah, that's what.
Although these wind turbines, they produce a huge amount of energy. I have mentioned sources that have these specifics, right? And we store the energy produced during periods of high energy generation, and then we can use that excess later. Of course, if at any point we're running low, we could switch to fossil fuels as a backup.
Very
Yeah,
good
thank you.
question, Sharda. I think you make a good point about how you need to have backups and the idea of a cascading system of failure. So for example, when you run short of renewable power, you could have a large power bank in a house or in a hospital. Secondly, you can use things like pumped hydro for energy storage, where you pump a large amount of water up against gravity. So you have that potential energy to harvest later, like for example, at nighttime. And as Chaitanya made note, that you can also have a traditional fossil fuel generator as the last resort. If all else fails, fire up the generator and burn some fossil fuels. So I think as long as systems are in place, then I think you would have a good solution. But obviously the goal is to use renewable energy as much as possible. All right, well, let's stop the recording and head back to the Connect meeting and then wrap it up. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you everyone. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.